Have you ever stopped to think about the operating system running in your own mind? And I'm not talking about the software on your computer or your phone. I'm talking about the invisible set of beliefs that is quietly shaping every single thing you think, feel, and do. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this thing called ideology, the hidden force that literally directs how we see the world.
I mean, really think about it. Your ideas about what success looks like, what a family should be, what's right and what's wrong, where did all that stuff come from? For most of us, it just feels like, well, common sense. It feels natural, like it's just the way things are supposed to be. But what if it's not?
And this quote right here just hits the nail on the head. The most effective, most powerful ideologies are the ones we don't even recognize as ideologies at all. They work their magic when we mistake them for reality itself, when their rules feel as basic and undeniable as gravity.
So, what are we actually talking about here? An ideology, at its core, is just a system of beliefs. But critical theory argues that all of these systems are products of our cultural conditioning. And we're not just talking about big, obvious political ideas like capitalism or communism. This includes patriotism, religion, humanism. Heck, even the philosophy behind a martial art like karate counts as an ideology.
Now, to really get a grip on how this all works, we've got to look at it through a few different lenses. So let's start with the first one, the deep, deep connection between ideology and power, which is an idea that comes to us mainly from Marxist analysis.
From this viewpoint, some ideologies are seen as, well, repressive. Now, what does that mean? It means they don't just shape how you see the world, they actively blind you to the real, material, and historical circumstances you're living in. They're designed to keep you from seeing the systems that are really calling the shots.
And one of the key tools for doing this is a concept called false consciousness. It's a pretty big idea, but it basically describes an ideal that you're taught to believe in that actually works to cover up its own failures, all while secretly helping out the people at the very top.
A perfect example of this is the American dream. The ideal, the story we're told, is that if you just work hard enough, anyone can make it. But a Marxist critique would say its real function is to hide all the systemic barriers, like massive economic inequality, and to keep the power structure just as it is, by making people blame themselves when they don't succeed.
And the American dream is just the tip of the iceberg. This kind of analysis points to all sorts of other ideologies. You've got consumerism, which whispers that your self-worth is tied to what you own. There's classism, the subtle idea that some people are just inherently better than others. You've got rugged individualism, which pretends that society has no role in a person's success. And even religion, which Karl Marx famously described as the opiate of the masses because he believed it helped people put up with their suffering here on Earth.
Okay, so ideology can be used to prop up economic power. Got it. But what if it's even more baked in than that? Let's switch to our second lens, because this is where it gets really interesting. The role of ideology inside the very language we use every day. Now, this is a huge claim, coming from a school of thought called deconstruction. The argument is that language isn't some neutral tool we use to describe reality. Not at all. Our language is literally built out of our culture's hidden beliefs and values. It is soaked through and through with ideology.
So, how can we see that? Well, you can see it in what are called binary oppositions, basically pairs of opposites. In so many cultures, our language quietly gives one side of the pair more value. Just look at masculine versus feminine. Historically, think about which one of those words has been associated with things like strength, logic, and importance. The ideology is hiding in plain sight, right inside the words.
And here's an even more charged example that really shows you how this works. The whole idea of civilized versus savage was a fundamental building block of colonialist ideology. It wasn't just a way of describing people, it was a built-in justification for conquest and control, embedding a power dynamic right into the vocabulary.
So the really important takeaway here is this. Whenever you read something or hear someone speak and you think to yourself, well, the meaning is obvious, what's happening is that you're probably just tapping into the most widely accepted ideological reading from your culture. What feels like simple common sense is very often just cultural programming.
All right, so ideology shapes our power structures, and it's literally woven into the fabric of our language. But it gets even more personal than that. For our third and final lens, let's look at how ideology actually builds our sense of who we are, our very identity.
In psychoanalytic theory, which studies the unconscious mind, this is explained with a concept called the symbolic order. The easiest way to think about it is as the entire world of language, laws, rules, and social norms that we're all born into. It's a world that is completely made of ideologies.
And our self, our identity, is basically forged in the way we react to and position ourselves within that world.
You can see this really clearly when you look at ideologies of oppression. Patriarchal ideology, for example, is way more than just a set of beliefs people have. It's the whole system that functions to keep women in a subordinate position. And in the same way, colonialist ideology's main job is to constantly reinforce the idea that the colonizer is superior.
And this has huge psychological effects. It's not just an idea in your head. It shapes how you relate to other people. For example, colonialist ideology creates the psychological habit of othering, of defining another group as fundamentally different and lesser. And that's absolutely essential to keeping that power imbalance in place.
So, we've used all these cool tools, Marxism, deconstruction, psychoanalysis, to pick apart ideology. We've put it under the microscope and seen how it works. But now, for the final reveal, we are going to turn that microscope around on ourselves.
Because you have to ask, right? What about these critical theories themselves? These powerful lenses we've been using to supposedly see the world more clearly?
Yep, that's the twist. They are also ideologies. Marxism, feminism, psychoanalysis, postcolonialism. Every single one of them is a belief system that was created under specific historical and cultural circumstances. Even trying to be apolitical is its own ideological position, one that usually just ends up supporting the status quo by never questioning it.
So, that leaves us with a pretty mind-bending question, doesn't it? If every belief system, every viewpoint, every perspective, and even every tool we have for analysis is itself an ideology, with its own history and biases baked right in, then how in the world can we ever get to some kind of objective, unbiased truth? What does that mean for how we should see the world, and for the beliefs we hold most dear? Definitely something to chew on.